Imagine an alternate universe novel written by Kim Stanley Robinson. It's a timeline where society has taken a lot more utopian turn than ours. The Wire is being renewed for its 17th season, where they sort of introduce us to the sewage department of Baltimore, and for some reason it's still interesting. Patrice O'Neal is coming out with a new comedy special on Netflix every other year. The Rick and Morty fandom never devolved into an insane cringe fest. Most importantly, in 2016 an open world RPG came out that is not just better than Skyrim, but also free if you already owned Skyrim. What if I told you that all of that was actually real? Well, I'd be lying, because most of those things are not real, but Enderal is actually a thing. Enderal is a total conversion mod developed by a team of German crazy geniuses called Sure AI. One of those. Or maybe not. Maybe it's different still. Essentially what that means is that they took Skyrim, all of the assets and files and all the stuff in there, and then made it into a new world with new characters, new locations, new storylines, everything new. It's basically a whole new game that I think is roughly about the same size as Skyrim, so you have dozens to hundreds of hours of new gameplay. And boy oh boy is it packed with good content. You know how the main quest lines of Elder Scrolls games tend to be kind of, not very good? They're not, terrible, but they're also not really the most interesting thing to do in the game ever. This is one of the best main quest lines in RPG video game history, and that means it's up against some very steep competition. And it may sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not. So this game drops you onto the continent called Enderal, which is controlled by a theocratic militaristic organization called the Order, which is trying to keep the fact that the gods have been killed under wraps. Additionally, a mysterious new disease called the Red Madness is turning people into what professionals in the mental health field would describe as homicidal maniacs. Bandits roam the road, predators are going wild, and sometimes even usually shy and peaceful animals are out for blood. Might say it's a bit of a powder keg type situation that's going on there. And you get to go to that world and explore all of it, become its surveyor, its hero, its savior, its demise, its guy who just kind of does the whole thing for money but is extremely powerful and so gets involved in the highest circles of society and somehow still moves the world. Like Skyrim. Let me tell you something, the world in this game is beautiful. Just the level at which the designers were able to utilize the native Skyrim assets and assets they and other modders developed is beyond phenomenal. There were nice spots in Skyrim, yes, but Enderal is basically made of nice spots. And you're going to want to go out and see all of them, not just because they're beautiful, but also because this game really rewards exploration. There's way different kinds of collectibles, all of which make your heart jump a little bit when you find them, because most of them are actually useful to you in the game progression. And there's so many little spots that tell their own little stories and side quests and treasures that you can find. And the dungeons, don't even get me started on the dungeons. There are scores of dungeons in this game. And none of them are yet another cave, as is usual even in games that really put some work into their dungeons, like Skyrim. Without exception, every single individual dungeon in Enderal is unique and interesting to explore in its own right. You will get sidetracked so often, not just because you found some old ruin, but because you know that this particular ruin will be different from all the others in some way. And you really want to know how. It's genuinely insane to think that this game is based on an engine from 2011 and still manages to look this good. But it's not just the dungeons that are worth getting into, it's not just the fantastic main quest line that is worth being played. There are so many interesting side quests that are a joy to experience. And they're all fully voiced by an amazing cast of freelance voice actors that did the whole thing for free just because they cared so much. Except for one guy, he's terrible. Worst voice actor that you will ever hear. You will recognize him when you play the game immediately. If you play the English dub, you will immediately know who it is. Terrible voice actor.
What do you want?
What do you want? Don't talk to me like that.
And the characters themselves, as they are written, are great too. I mean, sure, there were some interesting folks in Skyrim that were kind of cool, but it seems like all characters with a name in Enderal have some sort of interesting twist or fact about them, especially like your companions. You will have, while playing with them, so many oh damn moments that I've lost count at this point, frankly. There are moments where it does get a little goofy, especially like the intimate, emotional, dramatic moments, but let's be fair here for a minute. That's not Enderal's fault. That is the fault of Skyrim. That is Skyrim not reaching a decent level of sophistication in that particular department. And that's really most of the things that are wrong with Enderal is Skyrim. Because the ghost of Todd Howard does not cease to haunt us even in our happiest dreams.
It just works.
The Yankee-ass combat system is of course inherited, though I have heard some people like this. There's a bunch of graphics glitches that were already in Skyrim. Enderal can be pretty buggy, though I wouldn't really say much worse than Skyrim. And the Enderal team actually went out of their way to fix all of their game-breaking bugs. Unlike, I don't know, certain other organizations named after unincorporated census-designated places in Montgomery County, Maryland. Listen, just quick save a bunch, and you'll be fine. You've 600 hours in Skyrim. You trained for this. They put in a new, leveling and character progression system, which, I mean, it's not bad by any means. I just didn't see the reason to put it in there because Skyrim's was fine. But again, it's just different. It's in no way worse. There was one thing where, in the late game, just high-level regular mobs wouldn't be affected by the additional status effects beyond damage that my magic skills were supposed to inflict on them because they were too powerful. And this is in spite of the fact that I had elementalism at max level with a bunch of rings and armor and shit that pushed that stuff up even further, and my flamethrower hand magic spell was at 5th level. But I mean, that's such a minor thing that really didn't affect my enjoyment of the game at all. The one thing I really have to complain about is the map, because god damn have I been stuck just trying to find routes to things that seemed obvious on the map in this game. That does of course benefit you stumbling into interesting spots in the game world, but it's also frustrating to no end that the map is just 2 steps above useless. Listen, just remember this out of context without spoilers. If you ever go to Agnod, it's not up the mountain, it's down the mountain. Which, on that note, just to interject something very positive here, some of the dungeons in this game are gargantuan, and I absolutely love it. Some of the writing in English, which is the version that I've played, but me being a native German speaker, I did recognize the German language in there from time to time. Listen, it's stowaway, not blind passenger, that's all I'm saying. But on the other hand, these sort of weird words that people do use because of that in Enderal does sort of help in immersing yourself in the fact that this is a foreign continent to you. So maybe that was the plan all along. Some of the errors I wouldn't even want fixed because I smile every time I enter the Bust Pit. Oh, and did I mention that this game also has its own DLC that massively expands upon the underworld of the capital city and has an incredibly chilling and atmospheric quest line full of tremendous voice acting, and really this is just such a good game. God damn! Enderal is dark, but it's got enough light to make the darkness shine. It will play with your expectations, subverting tropes one time, playing them straight another, always in a way that is just refreshing and unexpected and really good. And at the end, you will sit in front of your computer and say, this game is not as good as Skyrim. It is way better. Also, there's weed in this game, so 420 blaze it, cool gamer reference. We live in a society, yo. Can't even do that ironically anymore and just have it come off as anything but massive cringe. But Burger, you might ask, if the development of this game was free, how did they pay for the development of all the people that were involved? Because I assume it was a lot of people, which yes, that is the correct assumption, it was a lot of people. Will it install NordVPN on my computer or something? No, it's just that the developers are insane. They're insanely passionate, about this project and about the work that they do to such an extent that they will destroy their physical and mental health for months and years just to create this beautiful, magnificent thing that will be underappreciated even if the Queen herself gives it a good review on Yelp. Thank you very much for watching this review. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Share this to your relevant communities, but do not spam them. Consider supporting me on a Patreon or Subscribestar, buying some of the merchandise, or maybe the book. And in that spirit, Malphas's blessings. And see you around, cunts.